Similar to my Sonic Dark Gaia AU video, which is surprisingly getting an update soon, this Sonic Dead Code AU landed in my presence. And so this takes place in a universe where Metal Sonic finally gets what he's always wanted. If you don't know much about the Sonic series, Metal Sonic is a character that considers himself the real Sonic. And although he was created by Dr. Eggman in the image of the real Sonic the Hedgehog, this copy doesn't consider himself as a clone or a faker. He considers himself as the real Sonic. And so picture now, after countless battles against Sonic himself and his friends and losing, he's finally won. So in the beginning, he's finally taken out Sonic and is wearing his literal skin. And Tails and Amy, who are clearly traumatized by what they're seeing, can see right through that that's not Sonic. But Metal Sonic doesn't pick up on that. He analyzes Tails using his biodata and sees that he's a brother, because now that the other Sonic is gone now, he's the Sonic. And so after hugging Tails, he gets completely swatted away by Amy's hammer while she says, "Get away!" Thanks Amy and says, "Is that really his? I'm gonna be sick." Immediately after this, we get a flashback of Metal Sonic and Sonic going head to head that day. Sonic says to him, "You really take this copying thing seriously, huh?" Literally, like they always do. And after this, back in the present, we see that Amy managed to knock Metal Sonic out and they have him tied up, working on him in the lab. With Amy saying, "I can't believe he's actually dead. I swear Eggman's gonna pay." Then Tails cuts her off saying, "Amy, I don't think Eggman's behind this." What? Something's off. Most of Robotnik's coding is unusable. He wasn't under Eggman's control when he did that. And he continues on by saying, "It's like it really is him. Never mind. Have you told the others?" That's when Amy takes a moment to think, as she still can't believe that this all is happening, and says, "Oh, I'm working up the courage to tell some of them. You should go to sleep, Tails. Just don't overwork yourself." And later that night at 11:23 p.m., Amy starts ringing everybody's telephone, including Rouge, Shadow, and Knuckles, telling them what happened to Sonic. Then we're shown their character cards, and I like the attention to detail that they put in, like the text bubbles describing his appearance and being said in a way that Sonic would talk. Like this saying, "Is that why?" Which is like Sonic saying, "You just wanted my handsome face, did ya?" Then this saying, "No fair," or "Those leave a mark." And then this text right here saying, "What are you doing? This isn't the way," which indicates that Sonic is still living on through Metal Sonic, so we'll see what happens with that later on. Next, we're shown some stuff about Tails, where it says that he's taking Sonic's demise the worst, leading him to make plenty of bad decisions like keeping Metal alive. Now you're probably wondering, Ty, why would he keep him alive? He's killed his best friend. Well, it says right here he's always working and he even has eye bags and hasn't slept lately. And in case of emergency, he has claws and metallic reinforcements on his shoes, where it even says right here that he's been slowly isolating himself from others they wouldn't understand. And if you take a look at his sanity and how it's supposed to be all the way filled up here, but it's this low, Tails is going insane and looks at Metal Sonic as Sonic and is working hard to make things go back to quote unquote normal. Now continuing on, in the next scene we see that Amy is out in the wilderness with Sonic, where it seems to be they're on some sort of date, and Sonic lets go of Amy and separating himself, and the wilderness around him starts burning down. Amy doesn't know what's going on and even starts feeling on Sonic's face, but ends up peeling Sonic's face, feeling Metal Sonic, with this whole scene symbolizing that Amy's whole world, which was Sonic, came crashing and burning down. Everything she's ever wanted was taken away from her by Metal. And that's when it shows her laying on the couch and that it was all just a dream. And she sits there and cries because her world will never be the same. A couple days later, in the next part, we're taken to Sonic's funeral, where Shadow is sitting next to Amy and says, "I hate to ask you this, but who killed Sonic? Was it Robotnik?" And Amy says, "Not exactly. Something went wrong with Metal's code and now he's gone." And as she sits there and cries, Knuckles comes over pounding his fists in anger and says, "Well, I'll look for Eggman anyway, because if he catches wind of this, he'll attack us. Rouge and I are going also." Then, meanwhile, while the funeral is going on, Tails didn't show up, and it's said that he was trying to understand Metal's code and files since the day prior, and almost all of Sonic's memories can be found there. And Rouge, who's sitting in the back of Tails, who probably doesn't even know that she's there because she's one of the best spies in the universe, is sitting there concerned due to his silence and isolation, and thinks that Shadow might be able to help with whatever he's going through. Because one thing about Shadow is that he's been and witnessed a lot and kinda used to isolate himself until he found trust in two people, which are Rouge and Omega. And so Rouge eventually goes up to Shadow and says, "Shadow, you should talk to the kid." He says, "Me? I don't think." "Shadow, if there's anyone here who can understand, it's you. You know the pain of losing family and where it can take you." And of course, Shadow, thinking about his friend whom he lost years ago, Maria, eventually does help Tails, who was looking through memory files of Metal Sonic when Shadow approached, saying, "Feeling lost? I know the feeling of grief. It can make you a shell of yourself, making you do things you wouldn't even have considered, making you think it's over. But it isn't. Life keeps going on and you have to keep going. But remember, as long as their memory lives, they'll never be truly gone." And Tails says, "Thanks. I'll keep that in mind." And if you can't tell by now, the light bulb clicking is a new idea that just popped inside of Tails' mind. As long as he makes sure Metal Sonic gets all of Sonic's memories, his friend will never truly be gone. And so that night, he decides to go into an abandoned egg base, which he notices was recently abandoned. And Tails turns on his flashlight saying, "This place looks wrecked. Was Sonic here? Is that why?" Stop. Focus on getting the materials. And not long after, Tails would eventually step on a pool of blood where he would find a pistol and Eggman's glasses. And they don't show us the body, but he says, "Is that Robotnik?" Don't freak out now. You have already seen worse. And he wants to look so bad, but something keeps telling him not to look. So he says to himself, just get what you need and maybe it'll work. After he gets back to the lab and he says, if my speculations are correct, his lack of directive and access of damaged code should have reversed him to his core program to be him, to be my brother. And that's when Metal says, "Hi, Miles." Now you're probably thinking, Ty, who put Eggman down? Was it himself? No, it couldn't have, because of this next scene, where Amy is waiting anxiously, and then her phone eventually rings and she picks it up immediately saying, "Did you find him?" And Knuckles says, "Well, kinda. We found his last base. As for Eggman, we are still looking for the rest." That's when Rouge, who's also there, says to Shadow, "Check this, something's missing. Eggman clearly tried to defend himself, but the weapon is missing. Which means someone else has already been here." After the call, Amy looks at a picture of Sonic and her, and then hears a loud noise and says, "Sonic?" But then says, "No, I'm just hallucinating. He's gone." And then out of nowhere, Metal Sonic touches her nose saying, "Good morning, Ames." And of course, Amy, who hates Metal for what he's done since they're in the kitchen, grabs a knife and also protects Tails as he walks in the room, saying, "Get behind me." It's the knife at Metal's neck, saying, "Now how?" Tails intervenes, saying, No, wait, Amy, it's fine. I woke him up." "You what?" And Metal, who picture him talking like Sonic because he literally sounds just like Sonic in this moment, says, what's going on?" And Amy says, "Miles, why does he sound like him? Did you?" "No, that's the point. I only gave him the ability to talk. That's his voice, and for all I've seen, he's operating completely through all of Sonic's thoughts." "Amy, I don't understand what's wrong." That's when Amy says, "No, you stay away. I don't want to hear another word from you." Meanwhile, back at the abandoned Eggman lab, Shadow, Rouge, and Knuckles are leaving with him saying, "We should leave soon, the storm is approaching." And Rouge says, "Then let's not waste time and go find who's already been here." And then Shadow says, "Wait, Amy's texting me. And we need to leave now." And Rouge is like, "Now? What did she say?" "Only one word. Help." They arrive and everyone's completely losing it on why Metal is in Amy's house after everything he's done. And Metal's like, "Oh, hi Shadow, a little help here?" "What are you doing here? Didn't have enough of just killing him, did you?" But Metal just says, "Great, you too. What's gotten into everyone today?" That's when Tails yells for everyone to stop, and Shadow turns to him saying, "You know you're better than that." As he looks at the gun Tails has pointed at his head, and Amy sits in back of him saying, "Tails, please calm down." "No, just listen to me, please. Let go, get off of me." And that's when Metal Sonic headbutted Shadow, with the timer beginning right after the headbutt. So what happens is that Tails gets startled by this headbutt and is about to shoot and kill someone on accident. So Metal, in under 1 minute, saves and pushes everyone out of the way of the shot. And so the shot misses, and Shadow of course attempts to take the gun, and in this moment, Metal says, "Phew, listen, if we just talk this out, I'm sure we..." And then Tails cuts him off saying, "Sonic, you believe in me, right? Leave, I'll catch up like I always do." "I know you will, you always find a way. See ya." And Tails immediately flashbangs everyone and leaves. After Rouge says to Shadow, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, fake chaos just turns out to be the perfect distraction. It was smart, I'll admit." "Knuckles, do you see them anywhere?" "No, they ran away too quickly. But if we hurry, we can find them. I'm going. I don't care if Tails is out of his mind or not. But I'm not letting him disappear like that, especially with that murderer." Now you're probably still saying, "Ty, what happened to Eggman? Who did it?" Well, you tell me, because we get a glimpse on what happened that day he died. It looks like Metal came into his lab one day with him saying, "Oh, look at who we have here, finally. Don't forget the face who made you." And then something happens where he gets slashed in the face and betrayed by Metal, with him saying, "You blasted machine, how dare you?" So yes, if you couldn't already tell, it was Metal who killed his own father. Meanwhile, at Green Hill Zone, Amy and her friends spend day 1 through 28 searching for Tails and that so-called murderer. Now, as we know of Metal and Sonic Heroes, he didn't really kill Eggman when he took his spot. He really just trapped him in a room. So it begs the question, why would he do this time? And so there's this little animation that explains his backstory that I personally find interesting, and you people will too. Keep in mind, it covers the song called "Fetch the Bolt Cutters" by Fiona Apple, which I can't play for obvious copyright reasons. The lyrics in the video goes like this: "I grew up in the shoes they told me I could fill. When it came around, I would stand real still. The doctor can roll his eyes at me and kill. I got the idea I wasn't real. I thought being blacklisted would be grist for the mill, until I realized I'm still here. I grew up in the shoes they told me I could fill. Shoes that were not made for running up hills. And I need to run up that hill, I need to run up that hill. I will. Now, if you don't understand, basically, Metal was in Eggman's shadow this whole time. He was told that he was supposed to be Sonic, made to copy Sonic, made to impersonate Sonic, until he realized he didn't want to be made out to be the fake. He wanted to be what he was made to be. So he took out the man that was holding him back and became the real Sonic the Hedgehog. Eventually, we're brought back to Tails, who's talking to Metal saying, "Sonic, isn't it weird that every single badnik we found is deactivated? I don't think that..." "Don't stress it, Tails," is what Metal says, as it shows a flashback of Orbot and Cubebot looking at Metal Sonic the day he took Sonic's flesh, saying to all of the badniks through Eggman's main system, to all units on the system, "New directive, deactivate." All that matters, Tails, is that they aren't under his control anymore. Next, going forward, back at Amy's camp, we see that she's gotten a lead on where Tails could be. She found a mint bag of lifesavers, saying that this is Tails' favorite candy, which means they're around here somewhere, and since it's getting dark, we're gonna have to do this a different way. We're gonna have to split up. Eventually, Amy gets the closest to finding him, saying that, "Tails, please, I know you're hurt, but you're putting yourself in danger," and then they finally find each other and lock eyes, and she yells out, "No, wait, don't go, Tails!" And he says, "No, leave us alone! Tails, please!" And finally, Tails stops to hear her out. Meanwhile, the wind is blowing in the snow. "Anyone there? I swear if it's you, Metal!" And then Rouge says, "Calm down, it's just me." "Oh, okay. Found anything?" "Nah, but there's this annoying buzzing." And this confuses Knuckles, and she goes on and says, "It's like a signal, but it can't be only one. It's too loud, as if it were multiple at the same time." Meanwhile, Amy's talking to Tails, saying, "Everything's alright, okay? Now let's just go back home, and you don't believe what I said about him, do you?" "Tails, He's lying to— He isn't lying! Please just let me explain! This gets Amy a little bit overstimulated. Before she can yell at Tails, she calms down and Tails says, please. And buckle up, because this makes Tails seem insane. So he says, that day, I asked myself many things. Why? How? Why didn't he attack us? Why did he act like that? So I looked for answers, and I found them. The technicalities are hard to explain, but he isn't like Metal anymore. His code just runs freely. It's weird, but he has his memories. He thinks like him. So what if it is him? Somehow, some way. I knew there was a risk that all this time I could be wrong, but I wasn't. He wasn't hurting anything. He talks, he acts, he kept me safe, just like him. Just like him. All this time has just been proof. And after Tails explains himself, Amy says, Tails, I trust you, okay? But please, you need to come home. All right, but promise you'll give him a chance? I promise. Now let's go. And then the muffled ringing that they didn't notice at first starts getting louder, and that's when Tails starts to panic, saying, wait, are the others here? And then Tails says, no. They'll hurt him. They aren't as understanding as you, Amy. And then Amy says, calm down. We all just want to help you, okay? Nothing to worry about. And then Tails, demanding her, says, hang up the phone. So Tails sees Knuckles and Rouge approaching and completely starts panicking and makes Amy promise that she won't let them hurt Metal when he comes back, but she doesn't go through with it. And Knuckles picks him up saying, Tails, you okay? And things start getting heated when Shadow shows up, because we know how stubborn him and Knuckles are, so as a two collective, it's gonna be very hard to stop once they start beating up Metal. And as you can see, Shadow doesn't even greet Tails. He just says immediately, Tails, where is he? And Tails points, saying, right behind you. Not even seconds passed and Shadow's already trying to destroy him with one punch. Metal dodges it, as you can see by the after shadow, and says, no, not right now. Just want to and gets punched in the face by Shadow, saying, hey, come on, I also like a little fighting, but seriously, don't you ever get tired of it all? And then Tails shoots the gun. Now, before we continue, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this gun is from the Sonic Rider games, where in one of the final cutscenes, Eggman pulls up on Jet the Hawk and Sonic, who are about to open a chest, where he threatens them with this same gun, and they don't even contest him, which shows how powerful this gun is, and for anyone thinking, oh, why are they so scared of a gun? But anyways, back to what is going on. Tails urges Amy to let them know to trust him, and Amy does the complete opposite. She tells Tails that what I meant was, and then Tails says, you lied. And she's like, no, Tails, no. Stop. Don't get any closer. And he pulls out a gun on Amy. That's when Shadow says, all right, I'm not dealing with this. Tails, I know you're tired. We all are. So before you do something, you'll regret. And so in part 40, we see that Tails' world starts to literally crumble upon him like a mirror that has just been cracked. And his mind is saying different things like, no, what are you doing? You're scaring her, don't hurt her, etc. And he just yells out saying, no, stop it. Quit looking at me like that. I don't want anyone to get hurt. I only want to help. And as Tails about to open fire, Shadow looks at the gun and doesn't want her to go through the same fate as Maria, so that's why he sighs and says, sorry, Amy, and punches Tails in the back of the head, with Knuckles holding him before he falls, with Amy also saying, Shadow, seriously? I told you to avoid doing that. Which lets us know that prior to even talking to Tails, that Amy already told them to already hold back and kinda just don't hurt Metal, which Tails would have known if he didn't go berserk and let her finish her sentence. And Shadow even says he was panicking. He could have pulled the trigger. It was the safest option for you and him. Just interesting, because judging off his response, he definitely would have killed Tails if Amy died. Continuing forward, once Metal Sonic can confirm that Tails is knocked out with his biodata, he sighs in like a relief, saying safe, and says, you can quit the act now. And for some reason ditches the Sonic happy look and starts talking to all four of them, looking at them like they're enemies, saying, I really just wanted to talk. I really did. But 4 against 1? Seriously? You know at least I won fair and square when I fought him. But if you ever want to play unfair, That's fine by me. I can play unfair too. And then he makes a message to all of the Eggman main database robots or badniks, saying to all offensive units, new directive, keep them busy. Note, don't terminate. Now, one key thing, if you haven't noticed yet, while looking at all these 4 pictures, one looks different, and it's Amy's. And as you can see, she looks more beautiful or angelic, which if Metal has Sonic's memories, of course, he's gonna have feelings towards Amy and be more protective of her. But continuing forward, Shadow shoots a gun at Metal but misses, and then says to Rouge to keep it and avoid shooting near me, and goes in to fight Metal Sonic. But from behind him, an android Shadow pulls up to fight and keep Shadow occupied, and in the meantime, Metal kidnaps Amy, saying, I'm sorry for that. I just want to talk to you in peace. And as he talks to her, it seems like she's knocked out, and he took her to a discreet place where no one knows where they are and says, I hope you understand. And that's when some error starts happening within his system that's weirdly, oddly projecting Sonic's voice, saying, gosh, what a moving display. Hoping for an encore, Metal. What will it be this time? Slashing, drowning, defacing? Oh, that's not funny. Not funny at all. Metal starts giving out but wakes up and says, I'm not like that. And Sonic says, come on, don't lie to yourself, Metal. Starts glitching again and then says, whoa, way to go, killing machine. That's more like you. And so if you need any explanation on what's going on right now, he basically is dealing with Sonic fighting back with inside his body, if that makes any sense, or his coding. So basically it's almost like he has a potential bipolarness where at one time he's like Metal and the other time he's gonna be acting like Sonic. Eventually Amy wakes up saying, oh, my head, where is everyone? Where am I? Then she turns around and in slow motion, she hears a voice that resembles Sonic saying, do you remember this place? What you told me here? Those words motivated me. You gave me hope for change, for the better life. And now I did it. I'm free. And of course, Amy's not interested in anything he has to say, and is probably disgusted by the fact that he views himself as Sonic and having a chance with her. And so Amy says, no, I'm not falling for any more of your cruel tricks. You tricked me into believing you were good. You made me look like a fool. You made me trust you. I wasn't lying to trick you, Amy. Stop using his voice. Stop trying to be him. Stop trying to trick me into some false sense of security. You are not Sonic. I know I'm not him. I've known that for a while. Then why? Why would you do this? And then that's when you can see that something's happening in his head, where someone's like, stop it. And then the other's like, I'm not giving up yet. And he dodges that hammer before it hits him, saying, Amy, I had to do it. I had to kill him. You didn't just kill him, Metal. Where do I even begin? You wore his flesh. You've been lying to his brother. Did you have to do that too? You just wanted to hurt us more, isn't it? Answer me! And the story is to be continued. There is a bad version or timeline or path that is taken where Tails goes even crazier. If you guys want to see that, to make sure to subscribe. And there's also a good one. I definitely enjoyed covering this AU. It's definitely in my top 2 of AUs I've ever covered. And if this video can at least get 5,000 likes, I'll cover the other versions of this AU in a different video. Love you guys. God bless all of you people. Peace.